Welcome back to the channel, US Rare Coins News, Top 1. Today we are talking about a coin that almost everyone has seen, many people have spent, and very few truly understand. A 1967 quarter dollar that looks completely normal at first glance can quietly be worth far more than 25 cents, and in rare cases, it has shocked collectors at auction. Stick with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to show you what makes the 1967 quarter special, which versions collectors actually want, the sneaky details most people miss, and at the very end, I'll tell you what this coin is really selling for today. Hold the coin up close and let the camera slowly pan across it. On the front, you see George Washington facing left, calm and familiar, with the date 1967 below his chin. No mint mark anywhere. That alone already tells part of the story. Now flip it over and zoom in on the eagle, wings spread wide, standing on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below. Clean. Strong. Very American. Now here's where things get interesting. 1967 sits right in the middle of a massive change in US coin history. Just a couple of years earlier, quarters were made with real silver. But by 1967, silver was gone. These quarters were made with a copper core and nickel outer layers. Because people were hoarding silver coins, the US Mint did something unusual. They removed mint marks completely and focused on pumping out coins fast. That decision alone created some unexpected rarities. Bring the camera back to the date and edges of the coin. Most 1967 quarters are common. Millions were made. In everyday condition, they're worth only a little over face value. But not all 1967 quarters are created equal, and this is where collectors lean forward. In 1967, the mint also produced something called special mint set quarters. These were not regular circulation coins. They were struck more carefully, with sharper details and smoother surfaces. They weren't quite proofs, but they were far better than pocket change. If you've ever seen a 1967 quarter with unusually crisp lettering, strong details in Washington's hair, and a smooth, almost satiny finish, you might be looking at one of these. Slow zoom on the fields and lettering. Look for clean surfaces and squared edges. Some of these special strikes even show deep mirror-like contrast between the design and the background. Those are the ones collectors fight over. Now let's talk errors, because this is where the real excitement begins. Some 1967 quarters were struck off-center, some showed double details in the lettering, and others were struck on improperly prepared planchets. These mistakes weren't supposed to leave the mint, but they did. And today, collectors love them because no two error coins are exactly the same. Imagine pulling a quarter from a drawer and noticing the date looks doubled, or the rim seems uneven. That's not damage. That's history frozen in metal. Here's a fun detail most people don't know. Because mint marks were removed during this period, you can't tell where a regular 1967 quarter was made just by looking at it. That mystery alone adds to the appeal for collectors who enjoy the story behind the coin, not just the metal. Now let's get to the part everyone waits for. What is a 1967 quarter actually worth? In circulated condition, most examples sell for around $1 to $5, mainly to collectors filling album slots. In high uncirculated condition, values can climb into the $20 to $50 range. Special mint set examples with sharp detail and clean surfaces often sell for several $100s. And the finest known examples, especially those with deep cameo contrast or major mint errors, have reached into the low thousands of dollars at auction. That's a huge jump from something that once bought a soda. So here's my question for you. Do you own a 1967 quarter, or have you ever checked one closely? And if you could add any rare US coin to your collection, which one would it be? The 1967 quarter dollar proves that even modern coins can hide incredible stories and real value. It's a reminder to slow down, look closer, and never assume a coin is ordinary just because it's familiar. Top 2. Today we are talking about a quarter that almost everyone ignores, yet a few examples have quietly sold for prices that make collectors stop mid-sentence. A 1993 quarter dollar. The kind of coin you've probably spent without a second thought. And that's exactly why this story matters. Stay with me, because in just a few minutes you'll know what makes certain 1993 quarters special, which tiny details separate pocket change from collector money, and at the end, I'll tell you what this coin is actually worth in today's market. Bring the camera in close and let the coin fill the screen. On the front, George Washington faces left, bold and familiar, with the date 1993 sitting just below. Look carefully at the lettering. Clean lines. Sharp edges. Now tilt the coin slightly so the light rolls across the surface. That shine, or lack of it, already tells us a lot. Flip it over. The eagle stands proud with wings spread wide, arrows clutched tightly, olive branches below. This is the classic Washington quarter design that ran for decades before the state quarters took over. For many collectors, this design marks the end of an era. Now here's where things start to get interesting. The 1993 quarter was made at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Look just to the right of Washington's ponytail. If you see a small P or D, that tells you where it was made. If you see an S, you might want to slow down. The San Francisco Mint struck proof quarters in 1993. These weren't meant for circulation. They were made for collectors, with mirrored backgrounds and frosted details. When you hold one under a light, the fields reflect like glass. If you ever find a 1993 S quarter in a drawer, chances are it came from a broken proof set. Zoom in on Washington's cheek and hair. Proof coins show sharp detail and almost no wear. That contrast alone sets them apart, but regular 1993 quarters can be valuable too, and this is where collectors lean forward. Errors. Mistakes that slipped past quality control. Some 1993 quarters show doubled lettering, especially in the words Liberty or In God We Trust. Others were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. Some were struck with a rotated die, so the front and back don't line up correctly when flipped. Slowly rotate the coin on camera to show alignment. These errors aren't damage. They're mint-made accidents, and collectors love them because each one is unique. Here's a fun twist. By 1993, the US Mint was producing coins at an incredible pace. Speed meant efficiency, but it also meant more chances for small mistakes. Most went unnoticed until sharp-eyed collectors started finding them years later. Now take a close-up of the coin's edge. You should see a copper-colored strip sandwiched between silver-colored layers. That tells you it's a clad coin, not silver. Some people assume older-looking quarters are silver, but by 1993, silver was long gone from circulating quarters. So what is a 1993 quarter actually worth? In circulated condition, most examples are worth face value to about $1. Clean, uncirculated coins can sell for $5 to $20, depending on condition and eye appeal. Proof quarters from San Francisco often sell in the range of $5 to $15. But error coins are where the story changes. Strong double dies, dramatic off-center strikes, or rare misalignments have sold at auction for several $100s, and in exceptional cases, into the low thousands. That's a serious jump for a coin many people still carry every day. So now I want to hear from you. Do you own a 1993 quarter, or have you ever checked one closely? And if you could add one modern US coin to your collection, which would it be? The 1993 quarter dollar proves that even modern coins can hide surprises. It rewards curiosity, patience, and a careful eye. Top 3. Today we are talking about a quarter almost everyone has touched, spent, or ignored, yet a small number of these have sold for prices that leave collectors staring at the screen in disbelief. The 1990 quarter dollar looks ordinary, sounds ordinary, and feels ordinary. That's exactly why it catches people off guard. Give me a few minutes, because I'm going to show you what makes certain 1990 quarters special, which tiny details turn pocket change into collector money, and at the end, we'll talk about what this coin is really worth today. Bring the camera in close and let the coin fill the frame. On the front, George Washington faces left, strong and familiar. The date 1990 sits cleanly beneath his chin. Tilt the coin slightly and let the light glide across his hair and cheek. This shine, or sometimes the lack of it, already tells part of the story. Flip it over slowly. The eagle spreads its wings wide, clutching arrows, olive branches below. This is the classic Washington quarter design that collectors grew up with. By 1990, no one thought these coins would ever be special. The mint was producing them by the millions, and most people never looked twice. Now focus on the area just to the right of Washington's ponytail. You might see a small P or D. That tells you if it was struck in Philadelphia or Denver. But if you see an S, pause the video for a second. That changes everything. The San Francisco Mint struck proof quarters in 1990. These were made for collectors, not circulation. Hold one under a bright light and the surface reflects like a mirror. The details look sharper, deeper, cleaner. Many proof coins were later broken out of sets and mixed into everyday change, which means some people have spent them without ever realizing it. Zoom in on the lettering. Liberty. In God we trust. On proof coins, the letters look almost carved. That contrast is a big clue, but here's where the real excitement starts. Errors. Mint mistakes that were never supposed to leave the building. Some 1990 quarters show doubled lettering, especially noticeable in the date or the word Liberty. Others were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. A few were struck with rotated dies, so when you flip the coin, the back doesn't line up correctly with the front. Slowly rotate a coin on camera to show alignment. These aren't damaged coins. These are mint-made errors, and collectors love them because each one tells a different story. Here's something most people don't realize. In 1990, the mint was under pressure to produce huge quantities quickly. Speed increases efficiency, but it also increases mistakes. Many errors weren't caught until years later, when collectors started examining coins more closely. Now show the edge of the coin in a tight close-up. You'll see a copper-colored stripe between silver-colored layers. That tells you it's a clad coin, not silver. Even though it looks old school, silver quarters had already disappeared from circulation decades earlier. So now comes the big question. What is a 1990 quarter actually worth? In circulated condition, most examples are worth face value to about $1. Clean uncirculated coins can sell for $5 to $25, depending on condition. Proof quarters from San Francisco usually sell for $5 to $15. But error coins are where things change fast. Strong double dies, dramatic off-center strikes, or rare rotation errors have sold at auction for several $100s, and in exceptional cases, into the low thousands, all from a coin people still toss into vending machines. So let me ask you. Do you own a 1990 quarter, or have you ever really looked at one closely? And if you could add one modern US coin to your collection, which one would it be? The 1990 quarter dollar proves that modern coins can still surprise us. Sometimes value hides in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. Top 4. Today we are talking about a quarter that most people have already spent without thinking twice, even though a few of these have quietly turned into serious collector pieces. The 1989 quarter dollar looks like everyday change, but under the right light, and with the right details, it can tell a very different story. Give me a few minutes, because I'm going to show you what makes certain 1989 quarters stand out, the small mistakes that transformed ordinary coins into collector favorites, and at the end, we'll talk about what this coin is actually selling for today. Bring the camera in tight and let the coin fill the screen. On the front, George Washington faces left, calm and familiar. The date 1989 sits just below his chin. Tilt the coin slightly and watch how the light moves across his face and hair. That surface finish already gives us clues about how this coin was made. Now flip it over slowly. The eagle stretches its wings wide, arrows in its grasp, olive branches beneath. This classic design was nearing the end of its long run, just a decade away from being replaced by the State Quarter series. At the time, no one thought coins like this would ever be special. Zoom in near Washington's ponytail. You'll see a small letter. AP means Philadelphia. AD means Denver. But if you see an S, pause for a moment. That coin was struck in San Francisco, and it wasn't meant for circulation at all. The San Francisco Mint produced proof quarters in 1989. These coins were struck with extra care, polished dies, and smooth planchets. When you hold one under a light, the background reflects like a mirror, while the design appears frosted and sharp. Many proof coins later escaped their original sets and ended up mixed with regular change, which means some people unknowingly spent them. Zoom closer on the lettering. Liberty and In God We Trust should look crisp, bold, and almost sculpted on proof coins. That contrast is a major clue, but the real excitement comes from mint errors. Some 1989 quarters show doubled letters in the date or the motto. Others were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. A few have rotated dies, so when you flip the coin, the front and back don't line up the way they should. Slowly rotate a coin on camera to show alignment. These aren't damaged coins. These are mint-made mistakes, and collectors hunt them because no two error coins are ever exactly the same. Here's a detail most people overlook. In 1989, the US Mint was producing massive quantities of coins at high speed. That pressure increased efficiency, but it also increased the number of small mistakes slipping through. Many of those errors sat unnoticed in pockets and jars for years before collectors discovered them. Now show the edge of the coin in a close-up shot. You'll see a copper-colored stripe between silver-colored layers. That tells you this is a clad coin, not silver. Even though it looks old school, silver quarters were already long gone by this time. So what is a 1989 quarter actually worth? In circulated condition, most are worth face value to about $1. Uncirculated examples with strong detail can sell for $5 to $20. Proof quarters from San Francisco typically sell in the range of $5 to $15. But error coins are where prices jump. Clear double dies, strong off-center strikes, or dramatic rotation errors have sold at auction for several $100s, and in rare high-grade cases, into the low thousands, all from a coin people once tossed into tip jars. Now I want to hear from you. Do you own a 1989 quarter, or have you ever checked one closely? And which modern US coin would you love to add to your collection if you had the chance? The 1989 quarter dollar proves that modern coins can still hide surprises. Value isn't always about age. Sometimes it's about details, timing, and a little luck. Top 5. Today we are talking about a quarter that changed US coin history forever, and most people still have no idea. The 1965 quarter dollar looks ordinary, but this one year flipped the switch on American money, and a few rare examples have sold for prices that don't even sound real at first. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'll show you why the 1965 quarter is one of the most important quarters ever made, how a tiny detail can turn it into a collector dream, and at the end, what this coin is actually worth today. Bring the camera in close and let the coin fill the screen. On the front, George Washington faces left, calm and familiar. The date 1965 sits below his chin. Now pause right there. That date is everything. Tilt the coin slowly so the light moves across the surface. Look at the color. Look at the shine. That's your first clue. Flip it over and zoom in. The eagle spreads its wings wide, arrows in its grasp, olive branches beneath. Classic Washington quarter design. Nothing looks unusual at first glance, and that's exactly how this coin fooled millions of people. Here's the big moment in history. Before 1965, quarters were made with 90% silver. But silver prices were rising fast, and people were hoarding coins. In 1965, the US Mint made a bold decision. They removed silver completely and switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition. The 1965 quarter is the very first regular-issue clad quarter ever made. Now show the edge of the coin in a tight close-up. See that copper-colored stripe between the silver-colored layers? That stripe means no silver. This single design change marked the end of silver circulating quarters in everyday use, but here's where collectors lean in. In 1965, the mint was in chaos. Demand for coins exploded. To stop hoarding, mint marks were removed entirely. No P. No D. No S. Every 1965 quarter looks the same, no matter where it was made. That decision alone created mystery, confusion, and opportunity, and now comes the twist. During the transition, a very small number of 1,965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. Same design. Same date. But the wrong metal. These coins look slightly different in color, feel heavier in the hand, and sound different if gently tapped. Zoom in and compare a clad quarter next to a silver one. The difference is subtle, but once you see it, you never forget it. These silver transition errors were never supposed to exist. But a few slipped out, and today they are some of the most famous modern US coin errors ever discovered. There's more. In 1965, the Mint also produced special mint set quarters. These weren't normal circulation coins, and they weren't proofs either. They were struck with extra care, sharper details, and smoother surfaces. Look closely at Washington's hair and the lettering. The detail pops. The surface looks cleaner. These coins were made in limited numbers, and collectors chase high-grade examples hard. Now add in other errors. Doubled lettering. Off-center strikes. Broad strikes with missing rims. All of these exist for 1965 quarters, and each one tells a story from a year when the Mint was pushing production to the limit. So now let's talk real numbers. What is a 1965 quarter actually worth? In circulated condition, most examples are worth face value to about $1. Uncirculated coins can sell for $5 to $30, depending on condition. Special mint set quarters often sell in the range of $10 to $50, with top-quality examples bringing more. But the legendary silver transition errors are in a different league. Verified examples have sold at auction for tens of thousands of dollars, with the finest known reaching into the high five figures, from a quarter that once bought a cup of coffee. So let me ask you. Do you own a 1965 quarter, or have you ever checked one closely? And if you could own any historic US coin, which one would it be? The 1965 quarter dollar isn't just money. It's a turning point in American history, frozen in metal, hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button, share it with a fellow collector, and subscribe for more real coin history and true market values. And don't miss the next video, because the most important coin in your collection might still be sitting in your pocket.